Hello, welcome back to the Soulful Ambition Podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. It is a beautiful September morning here in Colorado. I am feeling the season beginning to change and the energy shift. And let me start there with an invitation for us to drop in together, to notice what comes up around that, whether you're extremely excited about the season change or you have resistance to it, and really honoring how, if you live in Western society, we don't follow the seasons. We are always in a place of productivity and creation and achievement, and we need, our souls need, our animal bodies need the season changes, and we need to honor those. And so just letting this be a reminder to just even slow down and take stock as animals are preparing for winter. Is there something in your daily habits and rituals that wants to shift as the days are getting a little shorter, as we're beginning this descent into darkness, an invitation to a descent within the inner being, to come home in a way? And for me, it feels like such an invitation to connect with my soul, sit with, to not be in a place of what is my soul wanting to create right now, like in this moment. It's almost like I want to steep myself in soul, in this place within me that is whole, that is part of the all of everything. And then actually we'll move on from there in just a little bit. I have some other places kind of from there that I want to go, but I just wanted to start right there as a way to drop in together, no matter where you are listening to this and what you're doing. But that's something that we can all do and that can connect us. There are a lot of you listening in different places in the world. And whether you're getting ready to go into the fall equinox or your spring equinox, depending where you're listening. And there is this season change. There is this season change happening. So honoring and noticing if there's resistance to that. Because a lot of us have been conditioned, again, like our society, to not slow down. That can feel scary. And honoring that. But is there a part within you that's like, but it would feel really nice? So maybe letting that be your sign to explore. I want to say to you, if you were with me on this journey of the last episode, if you've been a long-time listener of the podcast, if you're a regular listener of the podcast, I should say, 2 weeks ago, the episode that was released with Molly Norenberg, the podcast editing company that I use, uploaded another one of their clients' episodes, and it was an episode all about basketball. Which again, I shared this to my email list. Somebody wrote to me to let me know, which thank you for those of you who let me know that had happened. And he was like, I listened to the whole thing, but I would like to hear your episode. So anyway, it took a while to get my episode uploaded. Well, it uploaded quickly, but it took especially Spotify and iTunes a really long time to stream it. If you are subscribed to the podcast, which if you are, thank you. It means so much. If you're not, you can. If you are subscribed, then your phone automatically downloaded that podcast. And even though we fixed it, it's not going to re-download it. So some of you went to long lengths to figure this out. And I deeply appreciate it. And truly, that actually means the world, because I don't know that I would do that. So need to thank you. What you can do if that happened and you're like, I still can't listen, is delete the episode that was downloaded and then just re-download the episode, and that should fix it. But again, I didn't even know that when I sent the email to let you all know that it was properly uploaded. So anyway, it was a whole thing. Mercury definitely was in retrograde at this time. So thank you, Mercury. And if you haven't gotten to listen, it is a beautiful episode with Molly. If you want to go back and take a listen. I also want to share, before we dive into today's topic, which today, again, it's a solo episode, it's going to be short and sweet, is I wanted to share briefly about the opportunity of working together. I don't know if I've shared that I have a sliding scale. don't know if I've shared that on here. You can see that if you go to my website, that I have a sliding scale, and we can talk about if the work is right to do together on a call. I would love to meet you if you're curious. I'm very, very full right now. So the group is currently running and my one-on-ones are full. However, now is the time, if you're thinking about it, to get on the wait list for the next group that will start in January, or to reach out and let's get the conversation going about potentially working one-on-one together, if that's something that you're curious about. And if you're curious about, like, what is it like to work together? Well, first of all, we should do an introductory session. If that's something that you're ready to invest time in, let's do a call, because you'll feel in our calls my energy. I'll ask you questions and you'll see if they take you to the right places. I'll give you some little practices we can do in the moment with what's coming up for you. And if you're scared because like, oh shit, am I really ready to invest in me? Like, what is that even going to mean to invest in myself in this way? And to look at some of these things. Am I ready? Do I want to let go of some of the ways I've been doing things? Some of the patterns that I've been stuck in that are yielding the exact same results in my life when I know I want more, when I want something richer and fuller. I know I want to get into more alignment with authentic self. That's something to feel into. If it's like, I just invite you to reach out and let's have a conversation. No, not one session with any client looks the same. I have clients working on big callbacks for Broadway shows, on the creative team for big shows in New York City. Lots of performers, but it's starting to shift, which is really beautiful, as that's not my primary focus anymore. The coaching is for someone who is really longing to live in their authentic integrity, to take up their space, to do what it is they're called to do from a place of power, to not take the shape of insecurity or self-doubt that maybe they've taken for a very long time. How to look at that and have a place to get intimate with those aspects of themselves so that they can begin to also take the shape and remember their fullness, to do what they're really here to do in the world. I really think of myself as this midwife or doula for your light, for your dreams. And it's just such an honor to walk alongside the souls that I'm currently walking alongside of, and potentially you. All right. Let's get back into where I was talking about season change and also the astrology that's supporting us right now, which is just so beautiful. So we're getting ready to go into eclipse season. So it's another aspect of nature, which we are all a part of and we are made of. So our beings are going to react to it. That's like bringing in the darkness right now. But in order to reveal, right? Like darkness to reveal the light, to bring us back into the light. As my teacher Sabrina says, like, what is being eclipsed out to be eclipsed in? And if this resonates, she said this week, and I was like, oh, this resonates big time for me, is now is a time that the first few weeks of September, when the mind might feel very scrambled, where you might be like, I don't know anything. I don't know what I want right now. I don't know what's happening in my life. I don't have any idea of steps to take. It could be any sort of thing, but if you notice this, if this resonates at all, it's for you. And so now is the time to dial up our gut brain, our intuition, our deep inner knowing, our heart. So to dial into, to attune to where does love want to bring us right now? Like, how do I want to love right now? Like, it could be a beautiful practice. What is in my heart right now? That's so different from those of us who are so accustomed to, okay, writing my 5-year plan or my Q4 plan, and coming at it from a very logical place. It's like, to see, even if you're a very high achieving individual and you just keeping my heart open now, what is just like, if I'm sitting in my gut or my womb space, get into that. When I sit back and down, I can feel my soul's longings and desires from there. And I tell you, the ideas, the pictures, the images that begin to appear when I land in that versus going, okay, it's Q4 for your business. You're gearing up for that. Like, what are we doing? It's night and day different. Can I tell you just in a personal note what just happened when I went into that? Like, it's Q4. You can hear my voice changes, right? It's higher. And I'm like, okay, where are we at? I immediately went to social media. Okay, wow, you're really behind on your social media, Analisa. This is like, we need to like bring life force there and but I just drop, and you can practice this with me. Practice dropping. Drop down. Feel your pelvis. Land in there. So you're not like imagining it from the outside. You're landing within it, and you're feeling like your gut brain, your hara, your intuition. And if I bring myself again to that place of like, okay, it's the end of the year with your work in the world. First of all, that question came out completely differently. And then I think of, so different. What comes up for me, I actually don't even want to share it. It doesn't feel true to share with you what's coming up, but it is not social media. So even like the astrology and the season change, both of these things I think are really supporting us to go down and in. Then notice if there's resistance, or notice if you're like, I don't even know how to do that. Well, do this with me. Just practice this with me. And also we'll do this work together if we work together. Go out into nature and just ask the trees. I'm telling you, I know it might sound crazy, but find a tree and sit at the roots of the tree and be like, I want to be like a tree in this season right now. Where is the tree within me? Okay, enough ideas. I think it's a beautiful time to feel into our deepest longings and not need the 5-step plan, the 10-step plan to suspend our disbelief. I don't need to know how. Like, that could be a really powerful mantra. I think a lot of us have a desire for something, and then we don't know how. And then that we allow that to take away some of the juice of the longing of what it is that we want. And so what if, so this is the theme of the podcast. What if it's about not needing to know how and really staying in the longing? But again, we do this all the time here, right? Not the flower, not what we want it to bloom into. So it's not like having that best-selling novel or the most successful podcast, or maybe even it's not about having like that the most amazing marriage if you're longing for partnership, or the most amazing house if you want to own a home. So that's like the flower, that's the bloom, but the root of the longing, right? Connection, community, creative expression, healing, service, love. We could go on. Those are like the roots. Dancing in companionship with another. So we're sitting here in these roots, we're feeling this longing without having to jump into how am I going to make it happen and write my plan. But then we give ourselves permission to dream. What if this season is going into this liminal space? We're not in summer, we're not in winter, we're kind of in a transitional time. This is a letting go of the reins too, which can feel really scary. It's like, hey, but I have been driving my bus to this place and I know how to get there, or at least I think I do. So I'm going to let it go. And I might even be dreaming even larger when I land and down and in. I might start to reawaken childhood dreams. I might start to tap into dreams that I've told myself, well, that's not going to happen. Again, letting yourself kind of in a dreamlike state almost go between the pictures of it, feelings of it. Maybe it is imagining this house on a mountaintop with horses. I'm just going here, just come with me. And rich connections of the community around, and I'm imagining that, and I'm letting myself now go there because that's just what wanted to come into my consciousness in this moment. And there's no worry about how will that ever happen, and I don't even know where that is, and don't ask me why I have a southern accent all of a sudden. Oh my goodness. I'm just letting myself be silly, and because that feels like where I want to go in this moment is to be silly. But come back down to the root of that. What is the feeling of that? So I'm dancing in between these two things. What I'm not doing is going into, I'm going to go on Zillow and look at homes. No. That's not the part of our brain that we are wanting to super engage with in this kind of liminal space. In eclipse season, getting ready for fall equinox. And to me, it's like attuning the whole body, where oftentimes our mind is like the most powerful part of ourselves, the part that's driving us. So this is sort of, I feel like attuning my nervous system, or gut, brain, kind of all coming in alignment for the same thing. So I'm feeling it. I might be imagining it. And that what I want you to do from this place is then, as you're wild dreaming, is like, let other things come in. Other dreams and longings and pictures and images. Maybe that's the flower here. So it's like I feel the root longing. So again, I'll bring it back to, for me, in this kind of like longing of connection and community. I feel this root longing. And now it's like I'm softening in the third eye. I'm softening, imagining. My brain is softening. I know that's not what actually happens. But I'm imagining it. And I'm giving myself permission to just dream. How does this want to unfold? How could it unfold? What would be fun or playful to imagine? If anything could happen, knowing that I don't even have access. My brain doesn't even know all the possibilities right now. It's not conditioned to know actually what's possible. So again, it's like, just play. What feels good? What if I started going to the local farmers market and connecting with the locals in that way, connecting with local farmers? That just made me think of this book. And oh my gosh, what if I had that author on my podcast? So again, sort of letting myself dream, not needing to take action on every single idea that pops into my brain, and not shutting it down either, because I don't know how. Because I don't know how it will work. I think this place is really, really powerful. I think it's very underrated, because then the next step is I ask and I wait. I wait for and I ask to know, to be able to discern where the inspired action is, where I feel really inspired, where I feel lit up. Do I feel lit up to email this person to come on my podcast, or does it feel like obligation? Like I should. I don't want to take action from the shoulds. Does it feel like, would it really enliven me to go start singing with a local choir here? Or does that feel like, no, I'm pushing. No, I'm pushing. I feel like that's what I should be doing, as a way to connect with other artists in Lafayette, Colorado. Somebody's invited me to join a choir, actually. And the truth of the matter is I didn't want to let them down. And so I tried to morph and contort myself into, oh, maybe that's what I should be doing. And yeah, I could do that. I could make that work. But I don't want to. Okay, so that's not it. All right. That doesn't feel like inspired action. Just let that go. Don't make it mean anything. Don't look into your past and go, I don't know, I want to do this. And why am I trying to people please? That's not what this liminal space is. Okay, what else feels good? In this moment, it's like, I have this idea of, this is a truth that I'm going to share out loud here. I really want to sing devotional music. Almost like church music, but not traditional church music. And is there a place where you just go and listen to somebody sing, and also maybe sing with an hour of devotional music? So it's not going to church, but it's kind of going to church. That's like my kind of church right now, where I'd like to go. And I'll connect with some local musicians that want to play together in that way, maybe. Maybe I want to write my own music. I don't know. I've never written before. I don't trust it. But again, I'm not trying to figure out how. Just these ideas. And does this light me up? Does this, do I feel energized? This is a great question. Do I feel energized by this or drained by this idea? And just notice it. That super energizes me. Whereas the idea of the choir I was invited to join drained me. Beautiful. And then back to dreaming, back to those roots. I long to connect. And actually that just deepened me in further to not just connect, but meaningful connections. Meaningful connections. Not just to have a bunch of friends here, to have a bunch of friends here, but to be an intricate part an integral part of this intricate like root system of where I've moved into, of this place. That my roots are feeding others and I'm being fed like that. Oh, here, metaphor, that metaphor, you all. Our souls speak in metaphor. And now is a time to feel into metaphors for your own life that you don't have to go, ooh, okay, so that must mean that I become a part of, like, maybe I should figure out politically where to get engaged, because that feels like that's the root system that I can create change in. This is maybe, but that's not what I'm inviting us to do here. No. I'm inviting us, is a metaphor arising for you of like what you're longing to feel in your life? What would that be? How do I want to feel? What does my soul want to experience and express? And can you just let that metaphor be enough? And that as you're moving now, okay, so I'm intentionally shifting out of that state of consciousness. I'm coming back up because now I'm wanting to go, okay, so next steps as I'm beginning to wrap up this podcast. So maybe if you're watching this, you really notice that, but I bet you can hear a shift in my voice as well. Oh, it's so fun. So cool. So I'm not going to walk through my day in that place, but it's fun to tap into. And it's fun to go, I'm not going to make decisions without going there. I'm not going to make decisions for my business, for my family, for myself, without going back and down. But then what do we do with that as we are moving throughout our day? Well, one I just said, like, feel into it. You can be washing your dishes. I can be changing a diaper and go like, okay, back and down. And I can feel back into that gut, brain, womb space, intuition, the root of my longing. Just that, actually, I think, just to go off the root of my longing, connection. And just letting that be there as I'm moving throughout my day and deciding what to do. What habits in my daily life are going to support this? I think that's a really, really powerful question to ask right now. And I actually think we're in the Virgo season as well, which is all like daily habits and patterns. So maybe too, with the season changer, are there habits and patterns that want to change with the shortening of the days? And to support, okay, so then you have this, maybe you grabbed a metaphor from that practice. And if you didn't, go back and do it again, or let that go, put on a piece of music later or with your journal. Journaling, you have to be careful because I find it hard to get out of my head when I journal. But maybe you're just like stream of consciousness writing. And it's like, and you're writing on some of this stuff and maybe it comes forward. Your metaphor for how it is that you're wanting to be and feel and move right now. So for me, if it's like this root system that's feeding others and others are feeding it, and it wasn't for me anything about the garden on the outside. Like it's like down in the depths right now, which feels just really true and beautiful. So then it's what's supportive of that right now in my daily life. And I can tell you, for me right now, I have just started setting my alarm for 5 a.m. I've started going to bed at 9:30 and getting up at 5:30 and lighting a candle and doing some music and just having that time in the darkness alone. And that's going to be really, I think, a practice for myself that is essential to support me. How can I connect to my roots, to be in the root system, if I don't find some true, still, quiet time to go within? I don't get a lot of that right now with a 1 and 4-year-old. So that's going to be, that's the main thing for me that arises when it's like, how can I support that? How can you support your deepest longings right now, the root of your desires? Is there something in your daily life that wants to shift? Maybe it's working together. Maybe it's having a doula. Sorry, I had to. It just felt true. Maybe it's like, I want that support. I want someone that I meet with once, twice, 3 times a month to come back to this place and dream with me and hold my big dreams with me and my deepest longings with me, to look at the parts of myself where I sabotage and where I forget so that I can really break free from some of these old ways that are no longer serving me and what I'm really, 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 really here to do in the world, which is big. And that big could be mothering a toddler or being on a massive stage. Like, they're both big longings and desires, and everything in between those two things, by the way, everything in between those two things, not just those ends of the spectrum. So habits and patterns. And then as we are moving through this season, it's like, let these metaphors like be living metaphors. Like, may I walk around this, like, may I tap into this dreamlike state occasionally, multiple times throughout the day, where I'm not leading so much from my head and the steps that I think I need to achieve what it is that I'm here to achieve or do what I'm here to do. And I soften and I become that receiver. And I remember my metaphor, but maybe I remember a season ago, when my metaphor was this thriving wildflower garden. It was a season where I was longing to be my biggest, most authentic self, actually, in this space. And the metaphor, it was so interesting. The metaphor that came to me in a session with one of my priestess sisters was walking me through this. And I felt like, oh, I'm in this HOA where I'm not supposed to have wildflowers, even they're considered weeds. And I'm supposed to, have my plants in this kind of a row. And I'm so tired of being the good girl and doing what everybody wants me to do. And I just want to have this like thriving wildflower front yard garden with things that everybody else would call weeds, and they're growing into other people's yards, even not too much, but just like enough. And it was a season of like being me unapologetically. And every time I would tap in and tune into that image, it was so powerful. And you could take that before you go on a first date, before you step into an audition room, before you record your first podcast episode, before you go into an interview, you feel into that metaphor. So you can feel the difference. Because I kept giving you the example of the roots. And even my own energy, when I remembered that wildflower, overgrown front yard, that's like all of my flavors and colors. And some might say, oh, it's too much or it's too this. But I don't care, because this is my authentic expression right now. And I learned to embrace it and to be it. Just this is where we'll end. It's like just letting myself imagine and feel into takes me into a different state of consciousness. And what if creating from that place, especially in this season, is far more powerful than looking at Q4 of your life, almost to the end of 2024. Did I achieve my goals? Well, what else could I do to get closer to my goals the rest of this year? If that is enlivening to you, then go for it. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. But if this other way of being is speaking to you, then I invite you to join me. And I would love to know your metaphor. So would you share it with me? If you would consider shooting me a quick email, find me on Instagram. My website, everything is below, AnalisaLeaming.com, Instagram, Analisa Leaming. If we're not connected, I would, goodness gracious, love to hear your metaphor. I think it would be so powerful and so beautiful. And maybe in a future episode, I can share some metaphors that came up for people as to like what symbolizes what your soul is longing for right now. So much love to you. So much love to you. I will see you here next time on the next episode of the Soulful Ambition Podcast.